So in Zone 16, I mention it all the time. We have a closed bass season. Bass season doesn't open until the fourth Saturday in June, which gives me a lot of time on my hands and a really strong hankering to fish. So earlier this spring, I spent some time looking at crappie jigs and learning how to tie my own jigs. And while, the little marabou crappie jigs were fun to use, and I actually have caught quite a few fish on them, including some pike and catfish, I ended up venturing into the world of bucktail. So for the last few years, I've had some interest in hair jigs. I used to fish this Minnesota mullet quite a bit, and it's pretty insane. I mean, this thing is just a huge, huge profile in the water. And it's a lot of fun, but honestly, I just want something that's a little bit more downsized that, just plays a different role. There's a very popular river near me, which you may or may not know, but a lot of people there use hair jigs. I've seen them catch fish on it all throughout the winter and the spring. So I thought maybe I'll try this technique there. I think part of the reason why I gravitated toward this technique is just because I find it very similar to throwing a paddle tail. There's a lot of things you can do. They're super versatile. You can just launch it out there, let it touch bottom, let it sit, drag it back really slowly. You can even swim it through the water column like you would as just a standard paddle tail. So it just kind of has always spoken to me as that's one of my favorite ways to fish. So I went in kind of blind. I mean, I've seen some people make videos where they do fish the bigger, heavier jig heads, but I thought, why don't I just size down, do like a quarter, 3/8, half ounce jig head and just fish what makes sense to me. So this is one of the first bucktail jigs I've tied. I'm not gonna lie, I just followed, YouTube tutorials. I will list down a couple names in the description, just of channels that have some really good footage. I know Mustache Flies does a few, and I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now. But either way, they have so many helpful tutorials tying on all sorts of jigs. And this is the one I gravitated to first, the VMC Moon Eye, which I think is actually really cool for tying because it has just a straight shank with a little bait keeper on here that's just a wire. So you don't have a big, lead collar on it. And so I like tying them like this because you get a lot more full body, but you're not really sacrificing movement in the water like you are with something like a Minnesota mullet. And I'm going to try to show you in here. So, I tied a couple times. I tie a hackle feather on the back here, a little tiny bit of bucktail just for the tail. Then I tie more into the body, and that's going to be my second tie. And on that second tie, I'll also put in some Flashabou. This one's hard to show. If I show you with the white here, you might be able to see that Flashabou better. Just some UV flash, but yeah, and then I'll do a third one right up here on the collar, and that's going to be a bit shorter than the rest of the body, and that kind of lets it fan out a bit. Either way, I've just found this to work really well. It's a really good ratio of, hair bulk to movement in the water. So yeah, I really enjoyed tying on those moon eyes. I only had them in a quarter ounce and it's just not quite the right size. And my favorite jig head ever, the smell head, comes in a 3/7 size that kind of seemed to be perfect. I fished it with a paddle tail there multiple times and it always works. So I figure, why not? Do I finally just do it and tie some bucktail on that thing? So here's a tie I've done on the smell head. And, I kind of went for like a baby bass color in here, a bit more white. I did just some green on the top there. Any color you can think of works, which is what's really fun about these, is just how customizable you can do with it. I got 4 feathers for a tail on there. I've heard some people say some things. So what I've heard is that, if you do 2 feathers and one gets ripped off, now you're kind of stuck, right? But if you do 4 feathers, you can drop down to 2 if 1 or 2 gets ripped off. And also, I mean, it's just going to give a bit more action in the water. And so the smell head's really cool because it does have a bait keeper that goes up the hook here. However, it has some divots in it. And I'll actually show you. There's those little divots. And what I did was I would just place my bucktail in there. So I would, do my initial wrap of thread and then, yeah, placing it in there gives it more of a, a spot to hold in and not kind of dance around and loosen up. This is all stuff that if you tie, you understand. I don't know how to explain it really, but a lot of times your bucktail tends to kind of slide around and cause problems and it just gets annoying. So this was a pretty good solution for that. And I mean, I literally have I have 4. So I would just not tie in the very last one, but go up the other 3 and it would work out pretty much perfectly. My camera is just brutal at focusing right now, but if I can, I'm going to try to show you. Yeah, so you can actually see where it comes apart there and where my thread's in between. If you were able to get a jig head that has a bait keeper like that, that could make your life a lot easier when you're starting out tying jig heads like this. So this is one that I had on a smellhead that I have lost, but I'm definitely gonna be tying more. This is one of my favorite colors to throw. I've just had a lot of luck with it, especially in overcast days or just slightly dirtier water. Kind of like a perch color I went for here. A little bit of red in there, and actually on some of my other ties, I have done the red flash just along the side there. Just looks a little bit more neater. Not a huge deal. This is just another one of those straight shank hooks. This is a XPS tungsten jig head in a 1/2 ounce. And this is pretty neat also. But just like I say, that smell head, I mean, that jig head's perfect for everything. It's also perfect for tying bucktail. So I'm still pretty bad at explaining, how to fish, to be honest with you. But to simplify, I would find a spot where the current is coming off a structure, so you have a break in the current in front of you. And I would cast a jig out basically to the point where the edge of the current is. And I would let it fall to the bottom, give it some light hops, bringing it off the bottom. Really simple fishing like you would with a jig or with a Ned rig even. And this is when I would get the fish to bite. You definitely had to make bottom contact here. Damn. Oh, fuck. Oh. I don't know. What is that? What is that, drum?
Oh, maybe.
Or another Walter? A drum. Ah, let's go.
Oh, yeah, it is.
My first ever drum, man. Holy. Yeah. Perfect hook set. Perfect hook set. Oh, that's not doing much. Holy smokes, man. Holy smokes. I was mainly targeting walleye with these jig heads. I did catch some sheep's head, which are a lot of fun. Just a really good multi-species lure, which is what I need, because without bass season, I don't really care about any of these other species enough to target them. So just being able to launch some jig heads and fish, it makes it a lot of fun. I will mention a way to store these that might be a little different than what most people do. So this is actually a fly fishing case from Bass Pro. It's a white river fly shop. I'm gonna be honest with you, the Fly guys are onto something with this foam. I know that Plano makes some boxes that have it, but these smaller, lighter foam board trays are actually really nice. So I use this for some BFS baits. I use it for my crappie jigs, and I started using it for bucktail. And when I fish the river, I mean, I literally am just bringing like a tray of these bucktail jigs, a bag of plastic paddle tails, and a few naked jig heads. And I'm just going to be tossing that all day long. And it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun this spring. And I will also share, I found these other jig heads, which I actually paint myself. And these are similar to a Neon Moon Eye VMC jig head, except these are a freestyle jig head. And I got these custom poured. And what makes these ones cool is that it is just a completely straight shank made for tying hair to. So yeah, they worked out pretty good for me too. I have a whole bunch of these, pretty cost effective, and I'm just gonna keep tying, especially come next winter for the spring. Bass season is around the corner. It's what I'm gonna be focused on now. This was just maybe a fun little side quest, a fun little offshoot of my fishing time I got to spend. Maybe giving up on panfish a little bit this spring and targeting some other species I don't normally target. So in closing, as I sweat my arse off because we do not have AC, bass season's around the corner. That's going to be the focus going forward. However, spring fishing has been pretty fun. Fishing the river's been fun, and tying bucktail has been fun. I do suggest that all of you give it a try. So thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you've been catching or tying, I guess.